Welcome everybody to yet another episode of Covenant Connections, and I'm right here with my good friend Bill. How you doing?
Doing great, Ariel.
So we were just talking and talking and talking. And I was like, Bill, we're not recording this. We have to start recording. This is too good to be off record. And the reason I'm saying this is because I was just in the midst of researching something about the story of the spies, which we will be talking about today. And I was super curious to see if in the Dead Sea Scrolls you have any mentioning of it, because there are only bits and pieces and fragments of it. And I was telling my friend Bill here that I was looking for a specific section in a specific chapter, in a specific verse, right? And so this is the book of Numbers, right? These are all the bits and pieces and fragments of this specific scroll here, right? And you have, by the way, this is an infrared photograph of this part. So it's very difficult to read it, but with the infrared, all the gray parts here are the infrared photos of it. It's readable. And then after more than an hour of searching, going through this, look how long this is, right? It's unbelievably tedious. I actually found it. This is the part of that specific chapter 13 that I was looking for. And in this specific big part, this specific word, it's like the only one that is so clear and beautiful. And that was the word that I was looking for. And we can talk about it a bit later, but I was so excited. And then I was like, you know what? We gotta we gotta talk about this thing. And then Bill goes, I've been studying this
Yeah.
story throughout this week. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we both been looking kind of at the same things without
I
even
believe, yeah.
coordinating it.
Oh yeah.
So,
Everything is orchestrated. So tell me, why were you looking at that? Is this like a methodology and you reached that chapter, or was there a different reason?
yeah, it's interesting because, every year in our church we spend the whole year studying one of the scripture books. So we have Old Testament one year, New Testament one year, Book of Mormon one year, and then we call it church history and the Doctrine and Covenants the next year. Well, this year happens to be the Old Testament, which is why it's perfect for us doing the podcast this year.
Absolutely.
But this week is actually Numbers.
So
And
the
then,
entire book of Numbers in a week?
yeah, they have the specific chapters, and you can read the whole thing, but we have highlighted specific things to go through. And
Nice.
yeah, this is definitely a big part of it. And then this next week is Joshua, which is definitely related as well. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I was, um, when was I there? I think I told you about my trip to the Shiloh Tabernacle.
yeah.
It was like a few months ago, right? So
Yeah.
whilst I was there, we also went and saw the Joshua's altar, right? So there's a specific place which is considered to be Joshua's altar, and there was a research, and I can look that up. I was not getting ready for this in that sense. There was a research that actually found some burnt, it wasn't wood, but it was like burnt remnants on stone there or on rock or something that was so old that it was even considered going back to the time of Joshua. Something nuts. I can pull that up for our next episode maybe, because it was crazy to think maybe it's from that time. Yeah. So what were you reviewing about the story of the spies?
Well, we were reviewing how Moses selected the spies, one from each tribe, to go in and look over the land and see what it was like, what they were going to be able to do, and how the 10 of them saw the giants in the land. They were like, there's no way we can do this. But Joshua and Caleb were like, you know, we got God on our side. We can do anything. And this is the greatest place in the world. This is the greatest thing in the world. And how they came back and um, the promises that were given to Joshua and Caleb because of their faith and um, reliance on God is just it's just amazing to think about. So
So I'm really curious if you can pull that up. I'm really curious to see some of the translations of the words that were used because
like verse 20 when it talks about this was the time of the first ripe grapes.
of the first ripe grapes, beautiful. Yes. So what we were talking about right before we went on air is I told Bill that the word grapes in Hebrew is anavim. Anavim is 5 letters. But I heard this theory that if you deduct 1 letter back, like if it was like the word grapes starts with a G, right? So if I deduct 1 letter, it starts with an H, right? So if I deduct 1 letter from the word anavim, I reach the word Samael. Samael is the Hebrew or the Jewish version of Satan. That it's an angel that can do good or bad, but it's basically focused on evil more, I would say. The problem is that it has 5 letters, whereas Samael has only 4 letters. There's like a redundant yud, a redundant letter, and it's not just a letter. If you recall from our previous conversations, that specific letter yud is is also very strong, and it also symbolizes God. There's the letter He, which symbolizes God. It's the literal name, and the word Yud is actually a symbol. It's a mentioning of God. It's not the name of God. It's like a mentioning of God. So, for example, at the beginning, not the beginning, but verse 16, Moses changes Joshua's name. How is it written in English?
Yehoshua.
Right. So it says Yehoshua and he becomes Joshua, right?
Yes.
So in Hebrew, it's the same name, it's just added Yud. So according to the rabbis, Moses actually prayed for Joshua to be one of the good ones and added God's name into his name. He became Joshua.
Kind of like we talked about a couple of times ago.
Exactly, exactly. And so if we go back to the grapes, if you take out the yud, the literal mentioning of God from the word anavim, and then deduct 1 letter, you get to the word Satan. And so it's not only the time where the grapes were ripe, that's the literal translation. But if you realize that kind of Satan was involved in this story, trying to blind these people because they weren't chosen because they were nobodies. They were highly righteous people.
Right.
And so why would they speak badly on the land of Israel? So there's like a whole theory of why would that happen? And it's not one or two, it's 10 out of the 12.
Just a side note in my studies as well, and you can help me understand this, but Joshua, the name Joshua that got put in is Yeshua. Isn't that also Jesus? What he went by in his lifetime?
No, it's written differently. It's written differently. In terms of the core, I would say the core letters are the same and there's a similar meaning, but Yeshua, Jesus, is basically salvation. Whereas Joshua, once you add that yud, is God salvates. Can you say salvates? Salvages. God saved or God salvages or
Yeah,
in
okay.
that sense. It
So there is
becomes
a similar.
it becomes 2 words. But if you remember, we spoke about the Yehu. Yehu is like God, so whatever it might be, Matityahu, Mattathias, or I don't know who else, Yehoshaphat. All these names of kings in the kingdom of Judea, Yehuda, Judea, Yehuda, Yehu is God. So Yehoshua, Joshua. Yehuda, Judea, right?
Cool. All right.
Yeah, so it's very cool. Tell me, there is something specifically I want to see how it's written in English. Verse 32. How does it start?
And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel.
evil report. It's very difficult, as I told you, to translate these things
Translate.
into English, and it's doing a bit injustice because it's almost impossible. Like if you would ask me to translate what's written here, I would find it difficult to do it in one or two words. I would have to say something. I would never consider saying the word report because for me, report these days is very, I don't know, business savvy language, I would say, rather than,
Right,
it's,
right.
it,
It's
it,
an official. They came back and said, "This is
yes,
our
right,
report."
right, right. And it's printed, right? And it has three copies and it's, and it has staples in it and whatever. Um, but how do you call, how do you say in English when somebody slanders, I guess, slander, right?
Right.
So
From
in
the lawyer,
Hebrew,
you know that word.
yeah, so I have to. So in Hebrew, it's actually closer to slander than an evil report. Was it evil
Yeah.
report?
Evil report. So I guess, in colloquial English, you might say they came back bad mouthing the land.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just blah, blah, this is horrible, this is bad, this is like the worst thing. What are we doing? Yeah.
So there was this rabbi in the 18th century. His name was Rabbi Israel Meir, and he's well known as the Chafetz Chaim. He dedicated many of his books to the issue of slander, on how to not speak badly of others. And many think that speaking badly of others means lying or gossiping right behind their backs. And he would teach that even if you speak the truth, but it makes a person look bad or causes them harm, that's also slander. So, for example, if I say, I don't know, Daniel has such a bad breath, right? It could be the truth, but it
Yeah.
makes him look bad. It's still slandering, even if it's fact.
I does it come down somewhat to their intention and why they said it? I mean, you can say something that's true, but if your intention is to harm, it's still harmful.
Right, right. And so it's considered one of the worst things that you can do. According to Judaism, it's actually extremely bad to, in Hebrew, it's called Lashon Hara. Lashon is tongue and Ra is evil, just like the evil report, right? So if you use your tongue in an evil manner, even if you don't mean to, to directly cause harm, but you understand that you have this power. This is the point. You have to understand that you have this power, and it's extremely strong. And I'll tell you why. So the term abracadabra, you everyone heard of it. I think we've mentioned it in one of the episodes that it's Aramaic, but it's in Hebrew. It means Evra kidvarai. I will create as I speak. Or as I speaketh, right? If I want to say it biblically, right?
Yeah, and to us, it's just a funny word, but it actually has a meaning.
No, 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 don't think that Israelis know what it means. Yeah, if you ask the averages, nobody knows what it means. But if you tell them what does Evra kidvarai mean, they would all know, and they would be like, "You mean to tell me abracadabra is Evra kidvarai?" And you would say yes, and you'll see them going, "Oh my goodness!" Like people could live a whole lifetime not knowing this, and then the penny drops. It's amazing. But why am I saying this? Is because the literal meaning of this is I can create as I speak, and we've spoken about that when we spoke about the first chapter
Yeah,
of Genesis, right?
only God can do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so there's a belief that there's a part of it in each and every one of us. And our rabbis used to say, Chaim ve'mavet be'ad lashon, which means life and death at the hand of your tongue. Like with your tongue, you can create life or death, which sometimes it's almost literally. Like you can say something bad about somebody. I can tell you that we as Jews have been experiencing so much anti-Semitism throughout the ages, but in the last almost 3 years now, people who speak badly about the Jews online can literally cause somebody to come and have, shoot somebody at a synagogue, or have those horrible, horrendous attacks in London the other day with people getting stabbed. So literally, you can talk your way into having somebody killed.
That's
It's
true.
so
You have huge impact more than you realize, just your words, for sure.
exactly, exactly. And you can fix relationships and you can ruin them, and you can say stuff and then come back and say, you know what, I'm sorry. But there's a saying that it's just like putting hammering a nail into the wall. You can take out the nail, but you can't fix that hole that you
The
created.
wound's already there.
Exactly. So how amazing is this entire concept of thinking, what is it that you want to say when you talk about somebody? And I can tell you, I've been investing a lot of thought and energy into this specific thing. And so one of the things he mentions, the Chafetz Chaim, is that you should not slander Israel as well. The land itself. You cannot say, oh my God, it's always raining. Oh my God, nothing grows in this land here, in this area. That's slandering the land of Israel, which is also forbidden, and it's a direct
Even though it's
connection.
true to some extent.
Exactly. Just like I told you, Daniel has bad breath, right?
Yeah,
It could be true, but it is still,
still
and
harmful.
the entire concept of that you can slander the land itself, and it should be treated as holy as well. That's why it's called the Holy Land, right? If there's something that you don't want to slander, it's a holy something, whatever it might be, right? So that entire concept is something which we are not accustomed to. It's not. It doesn't come easy to us because it's the easiest thing to say. Oh my God, what an awful weather here, right? No, you stop for a
Don't
second.
say that.
Yes, and so
In the book of James in the New Testament, there's a whole section about, basically it says, a large boat is controlled by a tiny helm. And it says, and for a man, it's like the tongue. With the tongue, you can change the direction of anything. And it basically says if a man can learn to bridle his tongue, he can control everything. But how much evil it says, so by the same tongue, same mouth cometh forth blessings and cursings, and this ought not to be. Very similar.
it is. Was the book of James? Is it the same James as Jesus's brother, or is it somebody?
Yes, I believe it's James, Jesus's brother. Yeah.
So I was fascinated. How did they get to James? Because Jesus's brother in Hebrew is Jacob. His name is Jacob.
That's a good question.
Yes. So no. I'm saying this not in a rhetorical manner. I researched. Yeah, I looked it up. I call it research, but I just looked it up. And so there was an evolution through Greek, because from Jacob, from Yaakov, it became Jacobus, Jacomos, then James, Jamos, and then James. And so there was a transition. And so James is technically Jacob.
Wow, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
so in the Hebrew, in the New Testament that I have in Hebrew, it literally says Jacob. It doesn't say James. I don't think maybe the actual book is called James, but when he's mentioned, it's
James,
it's
the brother
actually
of
Jacob.
this Jacob.
Yaakov, yeah. Yaakov, Yaakovos, Jacomos, Jamos, and then Jamos became James. Yeah, which is interesting. All the names actually are super interesting to me because there were Hebrew names originally. So Paul was Saul, just like the King Saul. So in Hebrew we call him Shaul, just like King Shaul. Paul is Shaul. Who else? Yohanan, John. Yohanan became John. Basically, I also found out that you remember Yahya Sinwar?
Uh-huh.
So Yahya is John. So he's actually named after John. Yeah.
So the terrorist is named after John.
Well, I don't know if his parents were aiming in that sense, but yeah. Who else? So Matthew is Mati. Mati is Mattathias. Matityahu. Matityahu means a gift from God. Yahu is God, which we've already established. Mati is like matana, gift, a gift from God. So
Wow,
Matthew is technically, if you go back to it, it's a gift from God.
that is beautiful.
So I'm wondering, people walk around with the name Matthew, maybe never wondering what does it mean,
I'm sure of that. They have no
right?
clue. They think it's just, oh, it's a book in the New Testament. That's all they really
Yeah,
know.
and they stop there. But if you, look through it, I think it's always fascinating. Um, there's also something that most Israelis don't know. The Herzl, his name is Benjamin Zev Theodore Herzl, and so Theo is theology, or basically
Religion.
God, or religion, right?
Yep.
Theo is the belief in some sort of a God, right?
Right.
Dor in Hebrew is Doron is also, if you've ever heard the name Doron, it's a gift. So it's a gift from God. So basically, Theodore is Matityahu. Theodore is Matthew, if I make a
Well, this,
full
this
circle.
is especially interesting to me because I just had a grandson born 3 weeks ago and they named him Theodore.
Really?
Yeah.
So Mazal Tov, first of all, that's amazing.
So
And
we'll
so
be talking
Theodore is
about
is a gift from God.
that. It was a gift from God.
Isn't it amazing?
Absolutely. That is awesome.
Yeah, I find all the things with, looking
What's in a name?
what's
Everything.
in a name? What's in a name? Yeah. And well, I didn't invent it. Names are extremely strong, and, numerology and all these things are
Yeah.
highly interested in
God
the
was
purpose.
very specific about names all through history. So there's obviously something to that that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, one last thing I wanted to ask you about this story of the spies is there's a portion where they come back with grapes, where they have it on a pole of some sort. I think it's
Uh-huh.
verse 23. Can you read it out to me? They'll come to the Eshkol stream or something.
Yeah, the place was called the Brook of Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence.
No, that's 24. What do you have in 23?
23. And they came unto the brook of Eshcol and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bare it between two upon a staff, and they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs.
So I
So
want to show
basically,
you.
bringing back show that this is a land of opportunity and things that can grow and be good, right?
Yes, yes. So I'm wondering if you've ever seen uh, the following. Wait a sec, I'll open it up. Here we go. Have you ever seen this symbol or logo? It's big enough.
Oh, wow.
So this is one of the most famous wine brands in Israel called Carmel Wines or Carmel.
Does it come from Carmel?
Yeah.
I've been to
And
Carmel.
as you can see, since 1882, right? This is,
That's the wine, anyway.
yeah. I
Carmel's
would
been
love
there a little longer.
yes, that's the winery. But also, it's way before the reestablishment of the state of Israel in 1948. But this is
That's
exactly what we've just,
it is.
what you've just read.
Carrying the grapes on a staff between, yeah,
Yes. And all Israelis know this logo, but not all Israelis know what it means or where does it come from. And I find it,
that is
that's,
awesome.
yeah,
Symbols in everything.
symbols and everything. And yeah, and stopping and looking, it's especially interesting. Also, one last thing that I wanna maybe use your help with. If you look at chapter 14, verse 12.
I will smite them with the pestilence and disinherit them, and will make of thee a greater nation and mightier than they.
Wow. So here, basically, God is pissed
Yeah,
at the people
a
of
10 of
Israel.
them.
No, but if you read verse 11, you can see. You know what? Well, let's do justice with the text and read from verse 11.
And the Lord said unto Moses, how long will this people provoke me? And how long will it be ere they believe me for all the signs which I have showed among them?
But the interesting thing here is that verse 12, it says, "I will make a great people out of you." That's what it says.
I will make a greater nation
A greater nation out of you, greater than them,
and
right?
mightier than they. Yeah.
Mightier than them. In Hebrew, it says, "Aseh otcha legoy gadol."
Goy is nation. I remember that.
Goy is nation. And, so many people tell me, Goy is a non Jew. And I keep asking them, so why is Moses referred to as a Goy? Why would God refer to Moses as a Goy? That's not the meaning of the word Goy. The meaning is a nation. And that's why I was wondering whether it's going to say Goy or nation. And it says nation
It
in the
does.
King James Version. But in Hebrew, it says Goy. Yeah, so God is basically pissed at the people of Israel, and Moses has to convince him to back down and say, you know what, give him another chance, and he's actually convinced. Thank God, or thank Moses in this also occasion.
Well, you got to understand. I mean, there's a scripture we have that says, in nothing does man offend God more than when he fails to acknowledge his hand. And we
Wow.
read that over and over again in the story of the children of Israel. But yet, it's not just them. We do this. We do the same thing. I mean, we see him everywhere in our lives, and yet we'll stand up and go, well, if only God would help with this, just forgetting that he's brought everything to us that we've ever been has been him in it, right? Or we take the credit ourselves or whatever.
That is so true. Oh
This
my God,
insane lesson over and over.
that is so true. Exodus is the second book.
Exodus is the second book, yes.
Can you help me with Exodus chapter 24, verse 7?
Exodus 24, verse 7. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, all that the Lord hath said will we do, and be obedient.
Will we do and be obedient? That's what it says.
Yes.
Will we do? Isn't that a way to phrase a question rather than we will do?
Yeah, it's Old English. In Old
Oh,
English,
okay.
they
So it's not a
straightforward.
question.
It's not a question. So they're basically saying, we'll do anything you say and we'll be obedient.
Right. So in Hebrew, it says Naaseh v'nishma, two words. We will do and we will hear. We will hear. But the meaning is be obedient. We will hear.
We'll
But
listen
the
and
literal
obey.
meaning is we will hear. And if you ask every Hebrew speaking person, they're going to say it's weird because first you should hear the command and then you do. In English, the way you phrased it, it makes sense, right? We will do, we will be obedient. It's
Yeah.
okay. But in Hebrew, or if the little meaning was like this, if it was written, we will do and we will hear, you would also go like, but that's weird. Why would you first do and then you will hear? And so I'm connecting this to everything that we spoke about, and we'll wrap it up.
So in Hebrew, is there a difference between, because in English there is, between hear and listen?
Yes.
Because you can hear something, but not really listen and take it in and have it change what you
Yes.
do, right?
Yes. Yes. But here it says here. Here it says here. It says here. I will hear you. It doesn't say listen. In Hebrew, lishmoa is to hear. Lehakshiv is to listen. Lehakshiv is from the word keshev, attention. Yeah, you're attentive to what has been said. We keep hearing stuff all day long. It doesn't mean that we're listening to them. Birds chirping
Right.
or whatever. It's like
Right.
you're not listening to them, but you're hearing them. That's for sure. This says we will do and we will hear. And why is that? So the interesting part here is that when you hear something and you start comprehending, that's different. The meaning of what they said, the children of Israel, in that specific verse is that we will obey you first and question later. We don't need to know why you're saying what you're saying, dear
Oh,
God. You're telling us what to do. We
that's
will follow you blindly.
that's profound. And I would say I think there's a misconception about blindly following, because I don't know that it is that in this context. I think it's trusting in God enough to do something even though you don't know why, but you know there is a reason why, because it came from God. And you don't have to know all of it before you will choose to obey.
I totally agree. And think about it. What does the word follow you blindly mean? It means one thing. I'm trusting you.
That's the
If
only
I'm
reason you would do
blind
it.
and I'm giving you my hand to walk me across the street, I am following you
Yes.
blindly. It doesn't mean that I have zero, considerations
Yeah,
or
you're not in a cult where you just do it.
exactly. That is not what it means. Nowadays, people take it as such, but that's not what it means. It
Blind
means
obedience doesn't mean you don't
doesn't
have
mean
any
stupid
will.
obedience without any consideration, without any conscious. I'm like a robot. I'm do whatever. I'll do whatever I'm told. That's not what it means. It means deep trust, and
Yeah, I
deep trust is something else. Like if you really trust somebody, you follow them in that sense. And so the reason I'm saying this is because the golden calf, right, was created after those 40 days they were waiting for Moses and he didn't come and they were like, okay, so what are we going to do? So that means he wasn't fully trusted. There wasn't complete trust. Because if I tell my little girl, and I say, listen, you wait here, I'll be back, right? And she trusts me, she will be sitting and waiting, right? She's not gonna, if I tell her, I'll be back in 10 minutes or in an hour, whatever, right? It's similar to that. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because that was 40 days when Moses went up on Mount Sinai, came back and saw the calf, broke the 10 commandments and stuff. The spies were exactly 40 days.
yeah, that's what it says. 40 days and they came back.
Yes. And by the way, they came back on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av means the ninth of the month of Av. In Hebrew, we have different names for the months. Have you heard of the ninth of the month of Av?
No.
No.
Or if I have, I don't remember.
So this is a day every year that we fast outside Yom Kippur. It's not a full 24-hour fast just like Yom Kippur, but it's considered the saddest day of the year. Yom Kippur is not sad. It's a day of,
Atonement and
reconciliation.
renewal.
Atonement. Exactly. But Tisha B'Av is considered extremely sad because the first temple was destroyed on Tisha B'Av and the second temple was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. And not many people know that the spies came back and spoke badly, or as you mentioned, gave an evil report on the land on Tisha B'Av, on the same date. This specific
Wow.
day is a horrible day according to Judaism, and so it's a sad. So if you see somebody sad at the office, in Hebrew you'd say, "Why do you have a face of Tisha B'Av? Like what happened? Why do you have a face of Tisha B'Av?"
And that day is tomorrow?
No, it's not tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. Tomorrow is a different holiday, the holiday of
Okay.
Shavuot, where we got where we got the Torah. It's a happy day.
Okay, that's a happy day. Thank
Yeah,
goodness
it's a
for that.
happy day. Most of the holidays are happy. That
Yeah.
specific one, Tisha B'Av. There are some other little minor sad ones as well, but this one is absolutely horrible because it's the same day, destruction of the two temples, and this thing of speaking slanderish on the land of Israel all happened at Tisha B'Av.
You know, just a side comment back on that trust thing. We're in the middle of writing this book about our experience in Israel with you. And part of that story as we were, when the bombs are falling and the rockets are blowing up, my wife and I, Tina and I, were praying about it. And the message that came was very clear. It said, do whatever Ariel tells you to do,
Wow.
and you'll be okay.
I don't think you've ever told me that.
I don't know that I have, but that was so clear and so correct, you know? And we knew, but this is the point I want to make is we knew if we trusted you that and followed your directions that we would be okay. But why did we do that? Because God said, trust what Ariel says. And isn't that the same here that God told Moses, they said, we will be obedient to you because, but if they're being obedient because they trust Moses, that's one thing. But trusting Moses because they trust God is a whole different circumstance.
Absolutely.
So
Exactly.
this relates. I thought that was interesting.
It's super interesting. It's super interesting. Well, my friend, I think this was a quite a phenomenal episode. I want to thank you, and I want to thank our listeners as well, and wish you all well. And we will see you on our next one.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ariel.
Thanks so much.